What's going on, YouTube? Tonight I'm craving Mediterranean, so we're gonna do a lemony chicken. We're gonna marinate and pickle some red onions. And we're gonna make fresh made pita that's easy enough that you can do it too. I promise. So enough talking, let's get cooking.
All right, to start, we're gonna do 4 to 5 boneless chicken thighs chopped into bite-sized pieces, and then half teaspoon of dried dill and 1 teaspoon of cumin, a half teaspoon of table salt mixed with a 1/4 teaspoon of ground black pepper, 2 cloves of garlic peeled and minced, 2 tablespoons of oil. I use extra virgin olive, and feta for topping. We're also going to be using the zest and juice of 1 lemon. For the flatbread, we're going to go ahead and grab 1 cup of bread flour. We're going to use about an extra tablespoon for dusting. Half teaspoon of baking powder, 3/4 tablespoon of instant yeast. We need a half tablespoon of olive oil and a half teaspoon of salt. And then of course, we're going to do a 1/4 cup and 2 tablespoons of warm water. You might need a little more or less depending on your dough. For the pickled onions, obviously 1 red onion. Gonna get some good honey. If you can get local honey, that's better. A half cup of vinegar. If you have red wine, that's great. If not, apple cider's fine. And a tablespoon of kosher salt. All right, let's get going. I'm gonna go ahead and cut up my chicken, and I'll fast forward it so you don't have to watch me do this, but it's basically gonna be bite-sized pieces. All right. To the chicken, I am going to zest 1 lemon, maybe between half to a whole lemon. If you have a giant lemon like I do, a large lemon or a Meyer lemon, then you can go ahead and just do like a 1/4 of a lemon. Just get a good amount of zest in there. That's gonna add some nice bright flavor. Once that's all in there, I'm gonna go ahead and add in our lemon juice. Cut this lemon in half. And again, if you have a smaller lemon, go ahead and use the whole lemon. I have a giant one, so I'm just going to use half. I'm squeezing it over my palm so I can catch all of the seeds. And it's making a lot of inappropriate sound effects. Okay, I'm just going to get ahead and toss those seeds in the trash and add in my oil. And I'm going to go ahead and put in the garlic, my dill, and my cumin. And I'm just going to go ahead and massage this. I'm actually going to salt this halfway through the cooking. So if you think you're going to forget to add the salt, go ahead and salt it now. But I like to salt it about halfway through the cooking just to make sure the salt sticks and I'm not wasting or adding any extra salt, any more salt than I need to. All right, while that's marinating, and it's gonna be quick, I'm gonna go ahead and get my pickled onions going. So you're just gonna go ahead and slice up onions into half moons, and just get whatever container you have handy. I'm gonna go ahead and use this old pasta sauce jar. And I'm adding in my vinegar. I'm going to add in my salt. And I'm going to also add in my honey. Sorry, didn't get a good angle on this. So one thing to note is while your chicken is marinating, you kind of want to work fast on the other things. You don't want your chicken to marinate for too long just because the lemon juice will break down that chicken meat. And so all it needs is a good 45 minutes to an hour, and then you're gonna have perfect chicken. That's what makes this a great weeknight recipe, because it comes together really quick. All right, I'm gonna get my pickle marinade a good shake there, get it all mixed up and blended. Just like that. 1 extra shake for good measure. And then I'm just going to load this bad boy up with my onions. Pickled onions, like having pickled vegetables, pickled onions on hand is awesome. This is like a staple in my house. Okay, last but not least is the easy pita, I promise. I actually spooned out quite a bit of flour. It ended up drying out my dough, so you don't need that much. Just dust a tiny bit of flour. And to your 1 cup of bread flour, I'm just gonna go ahead and add my oil and my salt. Right now I have the microwave going because I'm warming up my water. You don't, based on the strength of your microwave, you don't need to microwave it too long. Obviously, if you've worked with yeast before, you know that hot water can kill yeast, so it's got to be warm enough where you can touch it and it's not scalding. You would be able to, you know, a baby would be able to drink this water, so you just want to make sure it's not scalding at all because it will kill your yeast. And once that water is warmed up, I'm just going to mix this together by hand. So I got all my flatbread ingredients together, mixed together. The oil, the yeast, the salt. And I'm just giving it kind of a massage and a mix by hand. I'm adding my water slowly because when you mix it this way, you really want to make sure that you're mixing it well. So I don't want to add all the water at once for fear of just having a wet and soppy dough. I just want it to be wet enough so that everything comes together. And you're gonna know when it's done. It should be, you know, pliable like Play-Doh, and it should be tacky but not sticking to your fingers like super sticky. You can still see it's sticking to my fingers, but once it gets to this point where it's tacky, I'm going to stop messing with it and I'm going to throw it on the counter. So I can kind of feel it in my hand. It's not sticking as much as it was. And I'm just going to go ahead and knead it. And you can see I have a lot of flour on the board right now, or on the countertop. You actually don't need that much flour. You could just dust it lightly and add flour as you go along. I actually had to end up adding a little extra water because I had a little too much flour in there. But flatbread is pretty forgiving. You really want to just make sure, I think the number one thing is you're using good yeast. So if you don't know if your yeast is fresh, one of the ways you could make sure it's fresh is to add the warm water and yeast mixture by itself before you add it to the dough, and just make sure it froths up and bubbles up after sitting for about 5 minutes, and then you can mix everything together. I just bought this yeast, so I was pretty confident that this yeast is fresh, and that's important because when you throw it on that hot pan, you expect it to bubble up and create these nice pockets of fluffy, flaky air in your flatbread. So once I got it good and kneaded and the dough's coming together, it's no longer sticking to my hand, and I adjusted. Like, again, I said it's almost the texture of Play-Doh. You're going to go ahead and set it in an oil bowl, and we're just going to let that sit real quick. I think probably for 15 minutes, 20 minutes is good enough to let it rest. Now, I didn't have this in the beginning of the recipe, so I'm kind of tricking you into eating your vegetables here, but I have a little extra time before my chicken's fully marinated. So all I'm going to do is just chop up a zucchini. I got broccoli, you know, the one from Costco in the big bag. I just washed it really quick, and I'm just going to drizzle balsamic. I'm not going to add any fat to this at all, because I'm going to have a pretty rich dinner with everything else. So this is going to be the easiest side dish ever. Literally, I'm just drizzling balsamic, and I'm going to throw that in the air fryer before I throw in my chicken to give it a quick steam. I'm still going to use the air fry function, but you'll see. This dinner comes together super easy. If you have vegetables in the fridge, it pairs really, really well with this Mediterranean lemon chicken and pita. All right, look how easy that was. I mean, there's really no excuse to not get your fiber in there. So my little trick to the air fryer is I always use tin foil to line the bottom so that I'm not dealing with a whole bunch of grease and oil and mess to clean up afterwards. And the nice thing is the marinade like the balsamic in this case, is just going to drip straight to the bottom, and it makes it really easy to clean up later. So I'm going to throw this in. I'm going to put this at 400 just for about 5 minutes. That's it. I don't want it to brown. I don't want it to char. I'm just pretty much using this air fryer as a steamer. So 400 for 5 minutes. Oh, I actually put 6 minutes there. But it should be fine. Yeah, you don't want it to get too brown, so you can just check it depending on the heat of your air fryer. All right, our dough is ready for shaping, and I'm just gonna go ahead and divide it into 4 pieces, lightly dusting the counter. But you can see at this point the dough is moist. It's not sticky or tacky at all. It's really easy to work with. That's what you're looking for. And because I live in Hawaii, and if you're a baker in Hawaii, you know this, depending on whether or not you're indoors, you have the AC running, or if your window's open and it's a super rainy, heavy moisture day, then your bread dough can be affected by that. And so the amount of flour or water that you add will have to be adjusted. All right. My dough is shaped into 4 little balls. I'm putting my pan on high heat and just let it rest for about 5 minutes or so. And I'm just going to press these out with my thumbs first. And you can see my air fryer is already done with my veggies. Okay, I'm just dusting the pin with just a tiny bit of flour so it doesn't stick. And you're going to roll these out as thin as you possibly can. Like you want these, like thinner than a dime. Let's put it that way. Close to paper thin, not so thin that it's going to tear on you. But yeah, pretty much I get it as thin as I can get it before before the integrity of it holding together is compromised. So you can see I'm kind of getting there. Not exactly paper thin, but almost. And I'll just dust it so that when I stack them up, they don't stick to each other while I'm waiting for them to cook. I'm just gonna do this for all of my flatbreads. This recipe should make you 4 of them. It's super easy to double if you wanted to do 8 of them, and quite honestly, it's so good I should have made 8. Because I did have a little leftover chicken. Okay. I'm starting to get the sense, as this is my second one, and then as I move into the third one, how much pressure I need to put on the dough. And so that helps, because then you can start to work a little bit faster with each one. It's all about process improvement. Alright, I got all 4 of them rolled out. I'm gonna throw them into a hot pan. If you stare at that piece of flatbread, you're gonna see those bubbles starting to form. You can see them starting to bubble up, and they start tiny at first, and then you're gonna get real big ones that start to form. When that steam, you can see like the steam coming off from the bottom, when it starts to be more wispy and smoky, you know it's starting to char at the bottom, and that's when you flip it. That's when you're going to want to flip it. You want it to get like right on the edge of burning. That's how you get kind of that charred flavor on your pita or your flatbread. Yeah. And as soon as you flip it, it'll puff up even more. Get that full coverage. And again, I'm just waiting till I can smell that charred action, and that tells me this bad boy's done. All right, you just rinse and repeat 4 more times, and you're pretty much good to go. Look at that. We're almost done with dinner already. All I got to do after this flatbread is done is get my chicken in the air fryer for about 8 minutes, and then we're good. Okay, I'm gonna spare you from all 4 of them. Gonna go ahead and unload my veggies. And at the 6-minute mark, they were just starting to char just a bit. I think you could probably go for 5 minutes. and be safe, unless you like that. If you want the char on your veggies, and go for it. I just find that when I do broccoli, it tends to taste a little burnt, a little bitter. If I just, you know, misjudge it by seconds, that char just creeps over the whole thing. So I take my chicken out and giving my onions a good shake, make sure everything's covered. And when I pulled this chicken out of the fridge, I'll tell you, it's super aromatic. That lemony herb with the dill and the cumin just that started to waft through the entire house, and it just smells super good. All right, you're gonna want to space these out in your air fryer basket if you have a top loader. Just make sure that you might want to have to do this in batches. You don't want them to clump together or be stuck. You want to make sure you have that space between them so that they get nice and brown. So I'm just gonna go for a short stint. I'm gonna do 7 minutes, and then I'm gonna salt them, and then I'll finish it for like 1 or 2 more minutes after that. So I'm just gonna go ahead and quickly salt the chicken. I didn't use a full recipe amount of salt here. I just gave it a little pinch, a little sprinkle, because that means I'm not wasting any in the marinade. And honestly, as I get older, I am much more sensitive to salty food, so I almost never use the full amount of salt in a recipe. Now look at that. Gorgeous. Look at the color on that chicken. Beautiful. I wish you could smell it. This was one of my best dinners. I'm just adding lemon. I'm throwing the pickled onions right in the middle and topping it with cilantro and finishing it off with the crumbly, creamy feta cheese, which just takes it to another level.
Look at this. I can't wait to tear into this delicious chicken and feta. Ah, so good. A little bit of lemon juice. Thank you so much for joining me for dinner. Again, if you like what you saw, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. I'll see you here next time on Art Bento.